Good morning, church.
Good morning.
Amen, amen. It's always a good thing to be with each one of you. I am excited about the day. I'm going to tell you, the day started off a little bit different for me because, you write your sermon and you think that you've done some great work. You've done some great work. I thought I was proud of myself that I had done some good work, and I thought I had saved it on my. Yeah, that was it. I thought I had saved it, and saved it up in the sky. That's what we do with things now. We save it in the sky. And any computer we go to, we just open it up and it's there. And I got here and it wasn't here. And so I was like, God, your grace is sufficient. Your grace is sufficient. The scripture that we share with you today was actually from Paul. And I think that most of you know Paul's history when we think about Paul. And Paul was, we know his background, that he is a Jew. But we also know that he had Roman citizenship. But we also know that Paul was one of those persons who was determined that he was going to destroy these new folk who said that they were following this new man, this new person called Jesus that's on the scene. That Paul was like, I'm going to destroy them. Paul went to the authorities and he was like, give me license, give me permission to drag every one of those rascals before the court. Because I am going to destroy them. I want them destroyed. That they're not legitimate. That they're outside of the will of God. They're outside of the faith. That they have this new thing going. They're saying new things. And these new things are just not right.
My Lord, my Lord.
And I'm going to see to it that they're destroyed. Now this very same Paul, he's on his way to on the road to Damascus, and something happens.
Yes.
There's a bright light, and he's struck down, and he gets up, and then he sent Ananias, and then he becomes a believer, and he's a believer of the faith, and he changed spiritually. He's not the same old man that he used to be. But guess what? That's not how the world saw him. Those new people called Christians, those new believers, they didn't see the new Paul. They only saw what the old Paul was, who the old Paul was, who he was spiritually, that he was attempting to destroy the church. And that's our reality today. That some of us, we have changed. We have had a spiritual encounter, and we've changed. And we don't cuss folk out like we used to. We changed, but and we're not as fabulous as we used to be. That we've changed, but who other Christians see us as? They don't see us as the new person who we're professing to be, because they remember who we were. And because they remember who Paul was, Paul consistently defends himself. He defends himself and he talks about himself. And then he also goes on in this verse, talks about himself in the third person. So it seemed like maybe something was wrong with it, because he's talking about this person who encounters Jesus, and he said, I know someone. But you have to remember that he's talking to audiences that also knew Paul, and knew who Paul was, and knew how Paul was and where he came from. So Paul starts talking in the third person. I knew a person who met this God. I knew a person who met this Jesus. And he debates his own self and says, that's the person I want to brag about. But we know that person is truly Paul. Sometimes we debase ourselves. That we want to talk about our faith in the third person. That we don't want to talk about our faith saying, I am the one, that I am a believer, I am the one that been changed. And that we want to talk about it abstractly and say, well, this is what happens. And we want to use flowery, churchy words, because it makes it more suitable and make it easier for others to hear us, those who may have known us back then and don't know us now.
All right. Well.
It's kind of amazing because, Paul was an outsider, and Christians, the new Christians, they really didn't value Paul. And so Paul went to then witness to the Gentiles. But, when people want to throw people out of the church today, who's the first person they quote? Paul. When they want to say, you don't belong in the church, They quote Paul. And Paul did not belong in the church. The church was like, we don't want you here. And so then Paul went to the Gentiles. So now we see Paul, and we see this language. And the other thing that was interesting about Paul and that we see in this story is that Paul, he is suffering, and he's suffering something that we really don't know what it is, but we know that he said that he went to Jesus, he went to God 3 times and asked him to be removed. So many people have tried to say what it could possibly be, but anyway, we know that something's wrong with Paul. Just like something's wrong with you and something's wrong with me. That we can convince everybody else we're all right. But when we're in our own rooms and when we are in the midnight hour and when there is no one else around and when we can no longer lie to someone else who will co-sign what we're saying, it is difficult for us to truly continue to lie to ourselves. Even the person that is most grandiose can't continue to lie to his or herself because they know that deep down that something is wrong with me. And whatever that wrong thing was, Paul went 3 times to the master saying, I want you to change it. I want you to change this debilitating affliction that I have. He said it was like a thorn in the flesh, whatever it was. But Master, I want you to change it. I want you to make me whole. I want you to make me acceptable. I want to change. But Paul is helpless. He cannot change himself. Just like you and I. We are helpless. We cannot change ourselves. You can read all the help books you want, self-help books, all the books for dummies. I think we should have a book called Dummies for Christians. Yeah, you know, something that will just bring it back to us and bring us back down to earth and bring us from the lofty ideas and bring us from all the things that's supposed to make us right and bring us to the place where we just know and realize that we're helpless without God.
That's right.
That without the Lord, that we can do nothing. The songwriter said, without the Lord, I would truly fail. Without the Lord, my life would just be drifting. You know, like a ship without a sail. And even though now we see Paul as a great theologian, at that time and point in Paul's life, Paul was like, you know, without him, I'm nothing. Without him, I have no success. Without him, I don't even have true joy because my joy is in the Lord. Without him, things are just messed up. Now, you know, Paul is a strange theologian. And I say strange because I don't want us to think that we have to self-abase ourselves to be close to God. Because even that argument that God put a thorn in our flesh to keep us humble, and that's what he said, that it was to keep him humble, so he wouldn't get the big head. So Paul must have had a problem with ego. But I don't want us to go running around here thinking that what we are encountering, the struggles that we have, that it has been an affliction from God to keep us humble. Maybe Paul just needed to let some stuff go. Maybe some of the struggles that we have is not an affliction from God, it's that we need to let some stuff go. Maybe we don't love ourselves because of what society has said and who society says is acceptable, and maybe we may drag that thing around with us. And I hate that even in this day and times that the church loves to say, love the person but hate the sin. Often the thing that they're calling sin is a person's identity of who he or she is, and that they drag with them day by day and from place to place, and it appears to them to be a thorn in their side when it's truly this is who you are and that God's grace is sufficient. So no matter where you stand today, no matter who you are, no matter what you have done, no matter what you may be doing or what you may be thinking right now, because I don't know what God knows. I am so glad that there is a master. The songwriter said, just as I am, without one plea,
Well,
but that thy blood was shed for me.
yes, it was.
So today we come to the master just as we are. Because God's grace is sufficient. God's grace is enough. God's grace will save you. God's grace will rescue you. God's grace will do the work for us. But we have to accept God's grace. We do have to realize that we are helpless without Him. If it was not for the Lord on my side,
Well.
oh, where? So that I don't come and boast to you and brag about Don and what Don has done and what Don may have the ability to do. I come to you today proclaiming that God's grace is sufficient, and whatever you're going through, that you just need to keep calm. We get rattled, we get shaky, we get anxious and upset. And it's so crazy because the only thing we do, we keep getting madder and madder and louder and louder. Have you ever been talking to your kids? You know how kids, they just work your last nerve. And I love mine. He's 17 years old and God blessed me with him. But there are times when I kind of feel out of control of his life. And I just get louder and I start fussing and I'm fussing. And he just goes, yes, Dad. And I'm fussing and yes, sir. And I said, don't say yes, sir. Because you don't mean any of it. Because I'm just twirling and working, and I'm trying to make it happen. He's his own individual. God's grace is sufficient for rescuing him, just like God's grace is sufficient for rescuing me. But because I am so busy and caught up in the middle of it, and I can make it happen, I get lost. And I get louder and louder. And he just says, yes, Dad. And he's still going to bring a seed. We're not in control. Even the things that we think we control, we don't.
That's right.
God is in control. And God's grace is sufficient to carry you through. Today I ask you just to try Jesus. He's all right. See, I've tried him, and I can tell you that he is all right, and that his grace is sufficient for me, and it is sufficient for you. Amen.